This video brought to you by Magic Spoon. Now, if you've seen my other channel, Business Blaze, you'll know that I'm quite a fan of breakfast cereal because breakfast cereal is great. Who isn't a fan of breakfast cereal? But it's not always great for you. That's the truth. There were several years where I just never ate it because it's basically just way too much sugar that I don't need in my life. I mean, I don't have the healthiest diet in the world, but I know too much sugar is not a good thing. Anyway, along come Magic Spoon and they're like, yo, Simon, check this out. 0 grams of sugar. Says it right there on the box. 4 grams of net carbs, 14 grams of protein. I'm not sure I don't think it's quite the same across the board. For example, this one's got 13 grams of protein. But look, the thing is, no sugar, which is amazing. Also only 140 calories per serving. Now look, my formal education as a YouTuber didn't include a lot of education about diet, so I don't know what half of this stuff means, but I'm all in on that 0 grams of sugar. More importantly, it tastes fantastic. This one I have in front of me right now is the amazing peanut butter flavor, which consistently across all my ads, I will rave about as being the absolute best. I don't have a box of cinnamon here, but that's a close second. But there's also fruity, cocoa, there's a whole bunch of other flavors, and they all just take to taste delicious, but none of them as delicious as peanut butter. Oh! So what you can do is you can go over to Magic Spoon, there's a link below, you can try a variety pack or just load it up all with peanut butter if you trust me that much. Nowadays they even ship to Canada. I hope they ship to Europe soon because the amount of stuff I get on Twitter about people being like, where's the Magic Spoon in Europe? It's a lot. Right now, you guys can click below and get some Magic Spoon cereal today, build your own variety box, get $5 off using the code BRAINFOOD. Again, $5 off using the code BRAINFOOD. There is a link below and it's got a 100% happiness guarantee so you can get a refund if you don't like it for any reason. Fantastic. Let's get into the video. During the Second World War, more than 260,000 Allied personnel were captured by the Western Axis powers and held in prisoner of war camps in Germany, Italy, and their occupied territories. Their bold and often ingenious escape attempts have become the stuff of legend, including the famous Great Escape from the Stalag Luft III camp in March of 1944, and countless outlandish breakouts from the infamous Colditz Castle. And for more on that, please see our video that time Allied POWs secretly built an airplane from scratch to escape a Nazi compound. It's an incredible story. Less well remembered are the some 400,000 German and Italian prisoners of war interned in Britain, Canada, and the United States. Their ingenuity and will to escape was no less than that of their Allied counterparts, but while some 1,500 Allied POWs succeeded in making the home run back to friendly or neutral territory, over the entire course of the war, only one Axis prisoner managed to escape Canadian Allied captivity and make it all the way back home to Germany. This is the extraordinary story of Lieutenant Franz von Vera. Franz von Vera was born on July the 13th, 1914 in the Swiss village of Luc to Rosalie and Leo Freiherr von Vera, destitute German aristocrats. Franz von Vera joined the German Air Force, or Luftwaffe, in 1936 and was commissioned as a lieutenant in 1938. He was by all accounts the epitome of the Aryan Superman celebrated by Nazi propaganda, with blue eyes and wavy blonde hair, though Luftwaffe Chief Hermann Goering would later note his unusually short stature. He played up the image of a dashing fighter pilot driving fast sports cars and giving a pet lion cub named Simba as a squadron mascot, while his habit of wearing a red jacket into combat led German tabloids to dub him the Red Devil, terror of the British Air Force. Though many of his colleagues saw him as arrogant and a braggart, fellow POW Heinz Kramer would later describe him as an honest and pleasant young man, a bit of a showman with a wonderful imagination, but a reliable and honest chap. Von Vera first saw combat during the Battle of France as part of Jagdgeschwader 3, shooting down his first aircraft, a British Hawker Hurricane, on May the 20th, 1940. He followed this 2 days later by shooting down 3 French bombers. During the subsequent Battle of Britain on a single day, August the 25th, 1940, Von Vera claimed to have shot down 1 Spitfire and 3 Hurricanes and destroyed a further 5 aircraft on the ground, bringing his total kills to 13 and officially making him an ace. While only a few of these victories were ever officially confirmed, the German state media saw the propaganda value of Von Vera's exploits, and his claims were never contested. On September the 5th, 1940, Von Vera was escorting a bomber squadron over Kent when his Messerschmitt Bf-109 fighter was shot down by Spitfires flown by Flight Lieutenant Patterson Hughes and Pilot Officer Gerald Stapleton of 234 Squadron RAF. Von Vera managed to crash land a stricken aircraft in a field on Love's Farm near Winchett Hill and was quickly arrested by a cook from a nearby army unit. He was taken to the nearby village of Maidstone and held overnight in the local constabulary before being transferred to Maidstone Barracks under the guard of the Queen's Own Royal West Kent Regiment. It is here that he made his first escape attempt, overpowering his guard while digging in the garden with a pickaxe. He was quickly recaptured and sent to the infamous Cockfoster's Cage, an MI9 interrogation centre at Trent Park in Hertfordshire. Here he was held and interrogated for 18 days, but failed to divulge any useful information. At one point, in typical cocksure fashion, von Vera bet his interrogator, one squadron leader Hawks, that the British wouldn't be able to hold him for 6 months. Neither man could have known at the time how right von Vera was. Following his stay at the Cage, von Vera was transferred to POW Camp No. 1 in Furness Fells, Lancashire, where he immediately set about planning his next escape attempt. On the afternoon of October 7th, 1940, while the prisoners were out on a guarded walk in the countryside, von Vera took advantage of a distraction created by an approaching fruit cart to roll over a low stone wall and slip away. His absence was not noticed until later that evening, whereupon local police forces and the Home Guard were alerted to the presence of an escaped German officer in the area. Von Vera, travelling mainly by night, managed to evade capture for 3 days until on the night of October the 10th he was discovered by the Home Guard sheltering from the rain in a hogarth, a small stone structure used to store animal feed. The guardsmen bound von Vera's hands behind his back and began leading him back to the nearest town, but von Vera managed to slip his bonds, break the guardsman's lantern, and escape into the darkness. It was another 2 days before he was finally recaptured while attempting to hide in a bog submerged up to his neck. After serving 21 days solitary confinement at Furness Falls on November the 3rd, von Vera was transferred to Camp No. 13 at Swanwick, Derbyshire. Here he befriended a group of prisoners, including Lieutenant Walter Manhard and Major Heinz Kramer, who formed an escape committee they jokingly called Swanwick Tiefbau AG, or Swanwick Digging Company Incorporated. While progress on their escape tunnel was swift due to the sturdy clay soil, the group soon began running out of room to hide all the excavated soil. This stalled construction for weeks until Manhard discovered a large rainwater cistern beneath the garden house, which could hold double the expected volume of soil. On December the 17th, 1940, the tunnel was at last complete. On the night of the 20th, under the cover of a nearby air raid into the camp choir, von Vera, Manhard, and Kramer crawled through the tunnel and out into the surrounding countryside. Amusingly, the song chosen to cover their escape was I Must Away into the Great Wide World. While the men's absence was not noticed until the following afternoon, Kramer and Manhard were quickly spotted and recaptured, leaving von Vera on his own. Thankfully, he had prepared a convincing disguise. Thousands of aircrew from occupied Allied nations such as Poland, Norway, and the Netherlands served in the RAF, so a man in British uniform with a foreign accent did not attract undue suspicion. Dressed in a homemade RAF uniform with forged identity papers, von Vera planned to pass himself off as Captain von Lott, a Dutch bomber pilot whose aircraft had crashed returning from a mission. Knowing that bombers flew at night, he waited until 3 a.m. before approaching a friendly locomotive driver and asked to be taken to the nearest RAF airfield. At Cardinal Park railway station, von Vera came under the suspicion of the local railway clerk and police constable, but he managed to convince them of his identity, and they secured his passage to RAF Hucknall in Nottingham. At Hucknall, when the squadron leaders asked for his credentials, von Vera claimed to be based at Dice near Aberdeen in Scotland. While the squadron leader rang there to confirm his story, he asked von Vera for his identity disc. To his horror, von Vera realized that his fake disc had melted due to his body heat, and he hastily excused himself to use the lavatory. Running across the airfield, he spotted a Hawker Hurricane fighter being readied and informed the mechanic that he was taking it on a test flight. Von Vera was already strapped into the cockpit trying to figure out the controls when the squadron leader ran up with his service revolver to arrest him. Amazingly, this would not be the closest a German prisoner would come to escaping Britain by aircraft. On November the 24th, 1941, Lieutenants Hans Schnabel and Harry Wappler escaped from a POW camp in Penrith, Cumbria, and made their way to nearby RAF Kingston Airfield, where they managed to commandeer a Miles Magister training aircraft and get airborne. However, lack of fuel and freezing temperatures forced them to turn back and land near the coast, where they were soon captured. In von Vera's case, it became clear that the British Isles could no longer contain the slippery pilot, so on January the 10th, 1941, von Vera and 1,000 other German prisoners were placed on board the ocean liner SS Duchess of York to be sent to internment camps in Canada. Von Vera, who was by now a known escape risk, was placed in his own cabin under special guard, yet he still continued to plot his escape. During the crossing, von Vera managed to befriend the ship's galley crew, offering to peel potatoes and carry out other menial tasks. Slowly but surely, he gained the trust of more and more of the crew and began began to penetrate normally forbidden areas of the ship, getting as far as the engine room without being stopped. Knowing that the convoy they were sailing with was bound for North Africa and would soon depart, Fonfara and his fellow passengers plotted to take over the ship and sail her back to an occupied French port. Unfortunately for them, on the day the convoy departed, the Germans discovered to their dismay that one escort, the British battleship HMS Ramillies, had remained to shepherd them all the way to Canada. Duchess of York arrived safely in Halifax, Nova Scotia, where the prisoners were transferred to a train bound for a POW camp on the north shore of Lake Superior. After the abortive mutiny, Fonfara had decided to escape to the United States, which at the time was still neutral. While the nearest border crossing was between New Brunswick and Maine, Fonfara decided to save his attempt until late in the train journey, when it would least be expected. This would take place between Montreal and Ottawa, where the rail line came closest to the St. Lawrence River on the US-Canada border. On the 21st of January 1941, near Smiths Falls, Ontario, Fonfara put his plan into action. The train windows had all frozen shut in the winter cold, forcing the prisoners to turn up the car heaters to free them. At a prearranged signal, a fellow passenger raised a blanket as if folding it, shielding Fonfara and 7 other prisoners from view as they crawled through the open windows and plunged headfirst into the snow below. Amazingly, none of the guards noticed the escape, and the windows quickly frosted over again, blocking the escapees from view. The train was nearly 100 miles away by the time their absence was noticed. Once again, all of Fonfara's fellow escapees were quickly recaptured, leaving him on his own. Freezing due to a lack of proper winter clothes, Fonfara stumbled upon a nearby road, hoping to bum a ride to the border. A car soon approached, but as it drew closer, Fonfara realized it was a police car and quickly dropped his hand. But it was too late. The car came to a stop. Believing he had been caught, Fonfara grudgingly approached the car, only to be informed that hitchhiking had recently been outlawed in Canada and that he had barely avoided being arrested. Nonetheless, the policeman offered him a ride and dropped him off in Johnstown, just across from the St. Lawrence from Ogdenburg, New York. Seeing that the river was frozen, Fonfara attempted to cross on foot, but found a wide, ice-free channel blocking his path. Doubling back, he wandered through the night until he stumbled upon an abandoned summer camp near the town of Prescott, where he found an overturned wooden boat. Despite his hands being nearly frozen, using fence paling as a shovel, he managed to dig the boat out of the snow, drag it across the ice, and cross the river. Once in Ogdensburg, Fonfara turned himself into the police, who passed him off to the Board of Immigration. Charged with illegally entering the country, Fonfara contacted the German consul in New York City, who paid his bail and arranged for a local attorney, James Davies, to represent him. Fonfara was released and instructed to appear before a grand jury in Albany a week later. Fonfara's arrival in the United States caused a sensation, and he was treated like a celebrity by the media and otherwise saw the sights and lived the high life in New York City. He also took to writing Wish You Were Here postcards to old friends and comrades, including Squadron Leader Boniface from Hucknall Airfield and Squadron Leader Hawk from Cockfosters Cage Interrogation Center. During this time, he also learned that Adolf Hitler had awarded him the prestigious Knight's Cross for his August 25th attack on an RAF airfield, an attack most historians now agree never took place. But Fonfara did not have long to relax, for the Commonwealth authorities were hot on his trail. Soon after his border crossing, the Ontario Provincial Police delivered a summons to the Ogdensburg Police, charging Fonfara with the theft of a rowboat worth $35. This tiny sum was widely mocked in the German press, the German embassy even issuing a statement reading, "In view of the great importance Canada appears to attach to the boat, Franz Fonfara will gladly place at the disposal of the American authorities the sum of $35 so that the warrant against him may be withdrawn." However, given the criminal nature of the charge, it could not be tried in an American court and could have led to Fonfara's extradition back to Canada. The German consul therefore decided to get Fonfara out of the United States as quickly as possible. In April 1941, while negotiations between the American and Canadian governments raged on, Fonfara boarded a train out of New York and slipped across the border into Mexico. From here, the various German consuls in South America shuttled Fonfara along a circuitous route through Brazil, Bolivia, and Peru, and finally across the Atlantic to Barcelona and Rome. Franz Fonfara finally reached Germany on April 18, 1941, 225 days after he had been captured. In Germany, Fonfara was hailed as a hero, with Hitler personally congratulating him for his courage and ingenuity and ability to turn a tactically unfavorable situation to his own advantage. But even more valuable than Fonfara's heroic status were his unique insights into British interrogation techniques. Drawing from his experiences at the Cockfosters Cage, Fonfara wrote a pamphlet titled How to Behave If Taken Prisoner, which remained in use until 1944 and effectively cut off one of MI9's most valuable sources of intelligence. He also consulted on improvements to German interrogation techniques and contradicted the portrayal of British POW camps in Nazi propaganda, stating, "Generally speaking, British treatment of German war prisoners is unexceptional. Such isolated instances of maltreatment as have occurred have resulted from wrong behavior on the part of the prisoners concerned in the first decisive moments of captivity. In any event, in recognition for his daring escape, von Ferrer was promoted to Hauptmann and made a commander of the squadron JG-52 on the Eastern Front. In July 1941, he scored 13 more victories against Russian aircraft, bringing his total kills to 21. In August, his squadron was recalled to Germany to be equipped with new aircraft and reposted to Katwijk in the Netherlands. Then, a mere 8 months after arriving back in Germany, Franz von Ferrer's luck finally ran out. On October the 25th, 1941, von Ferrer was on a routine training flight off the Dutch coast when he experienced engine failure and crashed into the sea north of Vlissingen. His body was never recovered. Franz von Ferrer's extraordinary globe-spanning odyssey from captivity to freedom is emblematic of the determination and fighting spirit displayed by all servicemen during the Second World War and the effectiveness of interning Axis prisoners in Canada. Indeed, with the possible exception of U-boat sailor Walter Reich, who claimed to have escaped from a troopship in the St. Lawrence in July of 1940, von Ferrer remains the only German POW to make it all the way from Canada to Germany during the entirety of the war. His story was popularized in a 1956 book by Kendall Burt and James Leeser, and a 1957 film starring Hardy Kruger, both titled after von Ferrer's now immortal nickname, The One That Got Away. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, please do check out our fantastic sponsor, Magic Spoon, link below, and thank you for watching.